Howdy, I'm Jace and I'm a sex addict. Each week I come on and answer people's questions with regard to my life as an addict or a person in recovery or somebody just trying to figure out what it means to be uh, a healthy human being. Really great question that came in this week. The question was, can you fully recover from sex addiction? That's kind of a tricky one, and I'll just explain off my own understanding on this. As always, I am not an expert on anything but my own experience, so I'll share that with you now. Um, what we do know about addiction is that it is a brain disease, and as of this time, there is not a cure for the brain disease of addiction. Of course, sex addiction follows that pattern as well. So, is there like a direct course of action that you can take and then no longer be an addict? No, there's not. That's the short answer. There is a more hopeful answer that I believe to be true, which is since it is a brain disease and we're dealing with the neural pathways, we're dealing with the limbic system and the connection to the frontal cortex and all of that good stuff going on inside of our heads as addicts, those can be improved and repaired. And that comes from stopping the addictive behavior or substance. It comes with other methods of recovery and also just time. And since we also know that addiction is not only a brain disease, but a brain disease that's genetic and that's triggered usually by traumatic experiences or ongoing stress or trauma in early life, um, you get trauma brain also, which is another side of that, which is also something that can be repaired. So, for those of us who are in recovery who are dealing with both the brain disease of addiction and the traumatic experiences that happen, we are indeed changing our brains. So, though there's not going to be a day where I'm no longer an addict, they do say, if you're an addict, you're always just as likely to relapse. Or they talk about, you're always only 2 feet from the ditch and that you go this way, you don't go this way, and you always have the chance of falling back in that ditch. I do think that's true. I think there's a chance. I don't think you're as likely to fall into that ditch if you are holistically healing your mind, body, soul, and truly your brain. So, is there a cure? No, there's not a cure for addiction. However, there are so many options for recovering all of those parts of yourself that then make the likelihood of acting on addiction a lot smaller. They also say that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's connection. And so, a lot of us that are active addicts or have been active addicts spend a lot of time in isolation that usually started really young. And so, if we can join groups, get closer to our friends and families and our communities, and begin serving in those areas as well, the chances of us going back to our harmful, deadly, dangerous, degrading behaviors really go down quite a lot. So, if that question came from someone who is an addict and you're wondering, hey, how long do I have to do this recovery thing before I can graduate and be cured forever? You can't. But there is tons of hope for changing not only your life, but the person living it. So don't lose faith by any means. Yes, we have an incurable brain disease that we are born with and then is triggered by early childhood trauma, um, ongoing issues for so many of us in early life. It's a total ripoff. I'm not going to lie. It's a total ripoff to have that happen. But in recovering from that and focusing that energy to transform ourselves holistically, I believe addicts that take that path have a better shot at an extraordinary life than anybody who doesn't have the disease. It's the only disease that you can end up better off if you do recovery than not just someone who didn't do recovery, but all other people in general. So I have nothing but tremendous respect and admiration for those who are struggling with any issues, whether that's addiction or anything else. I mean, we all have dragons, we all have demons, right? And the people that step up and face those directly and say, no, I'm not doing this. Like, this is not the life I chose, and it's not the one I have to leave. We do not have to continue paying the consequences for these things that were outside of our control. Um, yeah, that's what I got on that one. If you want more information, I always encourage you to, there's tons of books, there's tons of blogs and articles, and so many experts in the field of neuroscience and addiction and the combining of those two. So seek out more resources on that if you want some more info. You can find some available on my website, suddenlycelibate.com. Thanks so much for the question and for tuning in this week. Until next time, stay curious.